From the first trace on the radar
And there's the center of the storm. That cone of uncertainty has really cleared the South Carolina coast.
to the storm making landfall,
Just sitting there praying like, please just be over, please just be over, please just be over.
Storm Team 2 is using brand new technology to guide you, preparing you for whatever the hurricane season could bring.
It seemed like there was a freight train going around and around the house when the storm actually hit later on that night.
Tonight, we will learn from seasons past.
As it was coming, we realized that we were probably getting ready to get hit. My mom wanted to evacuate, but my father, he's from here and has gone through numerous hurricanes and didn't want to stay. So we stayed here at Mount Pleasant Presbyterian Church.
It just feels like the world around us was going on, but like in that moment, the world stopped for everyone there.
Meteorologist Olivia Lawrence, Grace Lau, Josh Mathers, and the Chief, Rob Fowler, present Our Storms, Our Stories, continued.
Hurricane season starting all over again, and this year is predicted to be an active one. 14 to 21 named storms expected in the tropics this year. An estimated 6 to 10 of them will become hurricanes. And if this year is anything like last year's season, the storm activity will start early and ramp up quickly. Here along our hurricane-prone coast, you'll find that most people have a story about a storm and the lessons they have learned from hurricanes of the past. In this year's Storm Team 2 Hurricane Special, Our Storms, Our Stories continued. We explore our storied past with hurricanes old, new, forgotten, and unforgettable. Tonight we're gathering the stories from those who may be preparing for their first storm or their 15th. Storm Team 2 meteorologist Josh Mathers joins us in the studio with a look back at Hurricane Hugo.
In 1989, Hurricane Hugo's storm surge decimated the rural communities of Allendale and McClellanville. Fast forward to present day, and these villages, like many other small low-country towns, are experiencing rapid growth. Let's take a look back at the past to see what it might look like if a storm of Hugo's magnitude were to pay us a visit today. On the night of September 21st, 1989, Hugo, the most powerful hurricane to strike the Palmetto State in recent history, made landfall in Charleston County, pushing damaging wind gusts and destructive storm surge onshore into the villages of Allendale and McClellanville.
All I can remember, it seemed like there was a freight train going around and around the house when the storm actually hit later on that night.
As the eye made landfall to the south, the worst of Hugo's storm surge spread across Allendale and McClellanville, where Middleton and Maker Village barbecue owner Elliot Middleton, a child at the time, sheltered in place with his family.
We can see like shrimp boats that is, floated up a mile away from Jeremy Creek into the wooded area. You can see different things like that. You can see the pine trees looking like toothpicks, like snapped off. I also remember the smell of rotted seafood because of the fact that the storm surge pushed so far inland. There was so much, shellfish and everything that just came in.
Back in 1989, much of the area engulfed by the surge was sparsely populated and still very rural. Fast forward to present day and the rapid growth of the Charleston metro, more and more homes and businesses are being built.
You may have heard, 1 or 2 cars pass within an hour, hour and a half. Now it's cars passing every minute. And tons of cars traveling between the areas.
Additional traffic because of new neighborhoods and businesses in this part of Charleston County, many of which are in harm's way.
The storm surge would be much more devastating because of all of the homes that have now built on the coastal side of 17.
Scientists at Climate Central provide resources like this map to gauge areas that would be underwater under a given amount of storm surge. The data also takes into consideration recent sea level changes observed along the east coast of the United States. In this particular scenario, we're displaying a storm surge similar to Hurricane Hugo's. Note how much of the area east of 17 in Allendale, McClellanville, down into Mount Pleasant would be underwater today. Back in 1989, much of this land wasn't developed, and we know today that isn't the case. Since Hugo's eye made landfall over Charleston, the worst impacts occurred well to the north of the immediate Charleston metro. What if the same type of storm made landfall farther south of Charleston? Climate Central simulations of what downtown would look like are staggering. Note all of our familiar landmarks engulfed by the harbor. Full cleanup and recovery would take months, if not years. A Hugo-like storm in today's low country would look much different, but one thing would remain the same: the power of our community in a crisis, as we've seen multiple times over the last decade.
Both of my restaurant and my foundation, I have the word village in it because it's all about taking care of village. And Hurricane Hugo is something that will make you come together as one if it happens again.
The Low Country is changing, and one place where the forces of nature are on display is at Botany Bay Plantation on Edisto Island. The 4,600 acres are pristine and preserved, but there is concern that the environmental footprints of millions of people from around the world are leaving an irreversible mark on Botany Bay. News 2's Carolyn Murray met scientists and conservationists at the Wildlife Management Agency to check on whether heritage is being harmed.
Botany Bay when you want to see us in the Patriot, when I've been doing them with Mel Gibson.
Queen Quet, chiefess of the Gullah Geechee Nation, showed us where they filmed the wedding scene in the Revolutionary War movie, The Patriot.
Congratulations.
This is the same area today, completely covered by the ocean.
Gullah Village that is in The Patriot, the movie. This is what you're looking at now. It's underwater.
The 4,600 Botany Bay is a marriage of two plantations, Sea Cloud and Bleak Hall.
So all these thousands of acres of property that you see and that you have to drive through to get to where we are actually was where our ancestors were enslaved here on Edisto Island. This is the erosion I'm telling you about. You see how this edge is right here? When I had to come here for the Patriot, I had to keep walking. We would have still had, you know, maybe another 10 minutes to walk.
Miles of beach washed away.
Scientists are saying ocean acidification, sea level rise. They are saying climate change.
She says are evidence.
This is happening because of saltwater intrusion.
Of the harm caused by humans.
A tree is not supposed to lay down. So if they're laying down, there's a problem.
She says people are ravaging what can never be revived.
What we're looking at right now, people call a ghost forest. What scientists have said is the reason that we're having more intense storms and more of these storms is because of the CO2 emissions.
What can be done to repair what we are seeing?
I think that we have to take another perspective on coastal living. And we need to stop with the buildings right into the marsh and right into the ocean. That would be major. We need to have more land conserved and preserved. Our state of South Carolina is working on 30 by 30, trying to conserve 30% of land to protect 30% of the water as well.
Will Dorr is a senior coastal geologist with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources.
When you come out to Botany Bay, specifically this area, what is your first reaction?
First off, I think it's really cool. This is geology in action. This is the interaction of the ocean and the beaches here behind us. It shows what can happen when a beach is left alone, when you don't build on it or develop it. It gives an insight that we don't have in many places.
So there is no concern about the fact that we see all these trees uprooted.
When a barrier island with a maritime forest on it intersects the ocean and the ocean starts to move the sand from it, the trees hold on as long as they can. So this is what a forested island looks like when beach erosion happens quick enough.
Katie Luciano is a geologist focused on the eroding shoreline.
So it's a completely natural process. Well, what's happening here is that the sand that would be going onto this beach is being transported down towards Edisto Beach, or some of it's actually being transported north. There's a current reversal right here.
I am Bess Kellett, and I am the volunteer coordinator at Botany Bay Plantation.
Bess Kellett organizes the hundreds of volunteers who take care of Botany Bay.
Last year we had over 100,000 people visit the property.
She promises these thousands of acres will never be developed. Scientists, conservationists, and preservationists, each watching the work of Mother Nature and working to ensure that harm does not come to our heritage.
Of course, it's not just the islands and beaches that get battered when the storms roll through. The impacts are felt hundreds of miles inland, and the storm's impacts can sometimes be more dangerous because of the attention given to the coast. News 2's Raymond Owens heard from people who have been bracing for storms in Berkeley County for decades.
As we know, hurricane season has just begun and will continue on until November 30th. So we want to make sure we're prepared, and we want to make sure the public's prepared as well.
South Carolina Department of Transportation employees could be seen parked along the interstate. Both sides of I-26 could be completely reversed, headed toward Columbia during a hurricane. They plan to offer more options for getting off the interstates than they have made available in past years.
But in the event that we have a full-scale hurricane reversal, you know, we have a SLED, DNR, protection, pardon, and parole, local agencies throughout the state. So it's an all hands on deck, fire and EMS as well. You know, it's pretty much everyone's focus is getting people to safety and getting people where they need to be.
At the Berkeley County Office Building Emergency Preparedness Office in Moncks Corner, they're also preparing for a hurricane to be ready for impacts not just along the coast, but even those more inland areas.
We still have a lot of threats associated with the hurricane, especially straight line winds, tornadoes, even flooding from rainfall, especially around the lakes and streams in the upper part of the county.
Berkeley County is in the process of installing a number of new weather stations in rural areas to gather even more accurate real-time data. And upgraded county facilities are going to help during the next emergency.
The new Emergency Operations Center, we're now co-located with the 911 Center, which helps out with our communications tremendously. We're centralized now in Berkeley County with the rest of the government agencies, so everybody is right here when we need them.
But if officials issue an evacuation order, it's best to just get out of town.
We think that this is the best scenario and the best plan in place to get people out efficiently, quickly, and safely.
The name Low Country suggests some of the dangers that are associated with our area. Not only is the greater Charleston metro referred to as the Low Country because it's the southernmost part of the state, but it also has the lowest elevation in South Carolina. Storm Team 2 meteorologist Olivia Lawrence tells us with a large part of our topography just at or below sea level, when we see significant rainfall like in a hurricane, flooding is inevitable, especially in some of Charleston's most vulnerable areas.
When flooding comes, the streets of downtown become impassable, creating problems that people new to the Low Country may have never seen before. Here at the Charleston Battery, you can't miss the signs and evidence of what can happen when floods sweep through because of stronger storms, like this sign here marking how high waters rose during Hurricane Hugo in 1989. And when hurricanes are in the area, downtown is underwater, creating dangers, especially during emergencies. According to the city of Charleston, the main reasons that we frequently see flooding on the peninsula include storm intensity and storm duration. While there is no exact science to predict when and where flooding will occur, the city has provided a map based on data from previous rain or storm surge events. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster explains that collaboration of city officials and residents is also essential in these circumstances.
People talk to each other and work together, you can get a lot done.
But the problem becomes even worse because of the outdated drainage system.
It's just critical that we protect and provide flooding relief.
The addition of new construction takes away from the land which would naturally aid in downtown drainage. While it is not necessarily a bad thing that our metro area expands, it is essential to maintain what was while looking forward to what is coming next. But now, some solutions are in the works. Currently, an addition to the Church Creek drainage basin is underway. According to Mayor Tecklenburg, this project will greatly mitigate flooding downtown.
So this project extends our deep tunnel system that's almost complete, but this adds about another 35 acres of area to drain and add to the deep tunnel system that will be pumped out into the Ashley River.
The project is set to be completed by the end of summer 2023, but until then, current residents will have to adjust their understanding of the flood risks we still see, as this is part of our storm story.
The Saffer-Simpson hurricane wind scale, defined as a 1 to 5 rating based on a hurricane's sustained wind speed. The scale also estimates property damage. Only 4 hurricanes have made a United States landfall as a Category 5. The Labor Day storm of 1935, before names were used. Camille in 1969. Andrew in 1992, and 4 years ago, Hurricane Michael.
The National Hurricane Center announcing that Hurricane Michael is now officially a Category 5 hurricane.
Erin Morgan is one of our newest members of our team here at News 2, but she is not new to hurricanes. Erin was a reporter and anchor at WMBB TV in Panama City, Florida, when Michael came ashore with winds of just over 160 miles an hour back in 2018. At 21 years old, Erin experienced something most of us will hopefully never experience, a landfalling Category 5 hurricane.
Should we be worried about this? And no, they were like, we're going to stay, we're going to ride it out, it'll be fine, we've done this before.
But it wasn't fine, and it did not take Erin long to realize this storm was going to be much different. The signs were clear-cut.
The chief meteorologist at the time, Justin Kiefer, he started to cry on air when he realized the magnitude of this storm and basically the worst of it just going right over where we were. Once he was scared, I knew that's when I should be scared.
As many of us know, thinking back to before, during, and after Hurricane Hugo, there are memories and pictures that are etched in our minds forever. For Erin, these pictures are still very fresh. Emotions still run deep. She realizes what could have been.
Honestly, I was just sitting there praying, like, please just be over, please just be over, please just be over.
It's a life experience that Erin does not take lightly. She feels very fortunate, but also feels for those still trying to pick up the pieces and move on. It's not easy, and it's made even harder every June 1st, when hurricane season starts all over again with a clean slate.
In some ways, Rob, I feel like I have no power to say that I lived through that because people lost their businesses, they lost their homes. Yes, it was terrifying, but I was very fortunate through all that, so I do want to say that, but seeing all that, it was unimaginable.
Hurricane Michael is an experience that Erin Morgan will never forget, and her advice is simple. If you have the chance to evacuate, you should do so. The unknown if you stay is not worth the stress and anxiety.
It just feels like the world around us was going on, but like in that moment, the world stopped for everyone there.
From weathering a storm to protecting the community if one hits, one low-country emergency leader has seen it all. Storm Team 2 meteorologist Grace Lau joins us in studio, and you spoke with Joe Coates.
I did, yeah. Coates has worked with Charleston County for nearly 15 years, but he recently took the top job. At the Emergency Management Department, he tells me each storm is a lesson, and he taught me some of those lessons.
We realized probably getting ready to get hit. Yeah. My mom wanted to evacuate, but my father, he's from here and has gone through numerous hurricanes and didn't want to stay. So we stayed here at Mount Pleasant Presbyterian Church.
Joe Coates is the current director for the Charleston County Emergency Management Department, but only a couple of decades ago, he was just a young Boy Scout weathering out one of the most powerful hurricanes to hit our coast, Hurricane Hugo. Now, years later, he returns to Mount Pleasant Presbyterian Church, where his friends and family sheltered during that storm, and recalls that fearful night.
Boarded up our house the best we could. Got all of our stuff that was outside secured. Wind started picking up more. You start seeing a lot of the lightning and hearing some pretty good thunder. I was on the phone with my best friend, and all of a sudden the power went out and the phone went dead.
Joe remembers hearing the winds howling and the thunder outside, for the most part.
So I slept through a portion of it. Just looking up and being able to see the sky, and seeing all the stars. There was no clouds in the sky. Knowing that we had the back end of the storm that was more powerful coming.
After the eye had passed through, they had to weather out the rest of the storm and wake up to devastation.
The next morning I woke up and Dad had gone. He took his bike over here, and it took him an hour and a half to find a path to get from here to our house, which is about 8 blocks.
Houses gone, streets flooded, and power was out for weeks. Joe said he knew then it was time to rebuild.
The work started, and the work continued for weeks.
After Hugo, Coates had a new perspective on keeping the Charleston area safe, which led him to this position. He now emphasizes the importance of evacuation and preparation ahead of each hurricane season.
Is to please heed to the governor's evacuation order, make sure that they have their plans in order so that they know their zones, they know which evacuation route that they need to take.
We have been very lucky here along the South Carolina and Georgia coast. Yes, we've had glancing blows from tropical storms and hurricanes, but not a direct hit from a major hurricane. The last time we saw a Category 3 or higher hurricane hit our coast was Hurricane Hugo in 1989. That's 33 years ago. So what has happened in 33 years? A population explosion. People have moved here from all over the country. But there's a risk because there's no buffer between the tropical breeding grounds and our beaches here in South Carolina. That's why it's important to be ready each and every hurricane season. We always hope for the best, but know it's just a matter of time. It's not a matter of if, but when. It will happen again. And our company, Nexstar Broadcasting, is ready with television stations covering the entire coast of South Carolina. From WSAB TV in Savannah.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Chris Allred. We are here for you, whether it's one storm or many. With Storm Team 3, we are on your side.
To right here in Charleston, WCBD TV, to our neighbors to the north, WBTW TV in Myrtle Beach.
The Barron Weather System is the most powerful weather solution for broadcasters and allows us to provide critical weather information faster and more accurately.
We know we've got you covered before, during, and after the storm. No matter what happens during hurricane season, Storm Team 2 will be there to guide you before, during, and after the storm.
The history of hurricanes leaving their imprint on our future.
And that's why it's so important to remember the centuries of storms for the stories they leave in our past.
And taking the lessons learned as we prepare for storms yet to come.
From all of us here at Storm Team 2, we hope for a quiet hurricane season and stories of safety without the storms rolling in.